Hello, everyone. Hi.
Hello. Hi.
Hi, Jess.
Hi, Dana. Hey, Shawn. And okay, is it Rhiannon? I want to get it.
Rhiannon. Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Okay, great. Oh my gosh. Yay. We're going to let people trickle in. I'm going to switch this over here. While we do that, I'm going to do a little storytelling. So Dana here on the call works for an organization called There With Care, which was actually my first nonprofit job ever, like 100 years ago. I was actually the first paid employee of There With Care. Their founder paid me before she paid herself, which like says everything about a nonprofit executive director. And they're thriving. And Dana has been their hero development mastermind woman for, gosh, how many years now?
We are celebrating 15 years of care this year.
Oh,
Crazy.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
I know. Craziness.
Yeah. Yeah.
I used to babysit for my kids, and Jesse's now 20 and Abby's 23 working in DC. So time flies.
When you're having fun. Okay, so people are jumping on. I just wanted to give a little like rundown of how this is going to go. So we're going to have a panel style conversation with time at the end for questions, but don't be shy in the chat box, which I'll pop up over here. And yeah, we are going to talk to these three all-stars who have all successfully executed virtual events during the pandemic. Yeah, like if things weren't tricky enough for us nonprofit folks, let's just throw that one in there, right? If you have questions along the way, if you have examples or just anything, like don't be shy in the chat. Again, we can when there's time, you can unmute yourself, and we're just going to have a really real conversation about what was successful, what was not successful, lessons learned, and everything in between. But with that, why don't we kick it off with some introductions? Dana, since you're on with me here, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and There With Care, and then we'll go through everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, Jess. Nice to meet everybody. My name is Dana Bacardi, and I am the VP of Development for an organization called There With Care. Our mission is to support families and children facing critical illness, and we have chapters here in Colorado and a chapter out in the Bay Area. And I just got off the call with Nashville. We're going to be opening up a There With Care Middle Tennessee. We were supposed to be opening this month, but we're pivoting, the new 2020 word, to figure out what that looks like. But I do have some
I'm a little
experience.
hurt you're not coming to LA or Orange County.
It's next. But thanks for having me. I'm so willing to be open and sharing with everybody lessons learned from our virtual event we did in May. And then we're getting ready for our second virtual event in 5 weeks. So things to share for sure.
Yes,
nice to meet you.
Thanks. How about you, Shawn?
Hi, Jess. Thank you for organizing this. Summit's gotten off to a great start. I am the Director of Advancement and Events with 826 LA. So we're a writing and tutoring organization based in Los Angeles, and we support students with their writing skills. And we do that with all kinds of free programming. So we've got after-school tutoring, we've got evening and weekend workshops, we do in-schools work, we have help for English language learners, assistance with student publications, so the gamut with writing. And this is our 15th year anniversary this year.
Ah, that's amazing. Wow. Okay, and Rhiannon.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Thanks, Jess, for having me and all of us. It's the summit. It has been amazing so far, so excited to be a part of it. I'm the Director of Events at Opportunity Fund, and we make loans to small businesses who are underserved by traditional banks. So our clients are majority people of color, immigrant-owned businesses, and low to moderate income. And we're national now. We started in California. That's where our roots are. And now we have national reach.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you all for being here. Let's dive in. I would love for you to give everyone kind of a picture of what maybe your previous events may have been, and then what you kind of pivoted to in an online setting, just so kind of everyone has a frame of mind of like where you were and where you have either gone or are going. Shawn, let's start with you because you just finished your event only a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Yay. So glad that's behind us. So for the last 5 years or so, we've been doing, an in-person real live event. And we've hosted it at the Vibiana in downtown Los Angeles for the last couple of years. We've had about 350 attendees. We typically had sort of a courtyard cocktail. Everybody moves inside for a sit-down dinner, very typical sort of gala format. And at the top, we'd have the executive director and some board members, co-chairs, introduce the event, introduce our theme for the year. Last year, our theme was Raise a Voice, and we focused on the importance of one-on-one attention between our volunteers and our students, and really highlighting mentorship as our theme. So with that in mind, we brought in a lot of volunteers, a lot of students to talk about that one-on-one attention that they were getting. And we had a lot of student readings. We had a couple of really beautiful videos highlighting those relationships. We had a live auction toward the top of the show. And then we had a paddle raise directly following the very emotional video. And then we had some speakers come and talk about mentors in their life. And we capped it off with a live music performance with Jackson Brown. So that was sort of our typical format that we would do for these events. And we netted about 500,000 for the event. But it cost, it always costs around 100K to put on something like that for us. So we raised 600 to net 500. So that sort of was our typical format.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And tell us a little bit about where you went online. So what did that format transition to when you just did your event virtually?
Yeah. So we were well on our way to hosting our 15th anniversary. We had the place locked down. We had our run of show. We knew where we were going. And this was March, obviously, when everything just shut down. So it took us a couple of weeks to catch our breath and sort of figure out what are we going to do and how are we going to do it. I'd say by mid-April, we were kind of on our next course, this virtual course. And what we decided to do is turn it into a peer-to-peer. So we figured we already had all of our sponsors, right? And we had our corporate sponsors on board. We had our board members who already purchased their tables and many others who kind of come back year after year. And we thought, well, if we turned it into a peer-to-peer, then the teams could essentially be the tables. And, the board member would each have a team, and then the people that they would invite to their tables normally would become their team members. And we kicked it off with that structure in mind. It worked to some degree. We had this grand vision that all the people that they'd be bringing into their team would then go on and become peer-to-peer fundraisers. And it didn't really work out that way. People were more used to kind of just giving their one donation and then sort of being done. So we didn't get active teams in that way. But I do think that the structure helped with the fundraising. What we decided to do is, so that was our fundraising model. And initially we had a $500 ticket, which we kept the same as for an in-person event. And we realized quite quickly that was a really high barrier for a virtual event. So we sort of pulled back on that messaging, and ultimately we made it sort of an open event. The more eyeballs, the better. And we really made it all about the sort of sponsorships that we gathered in advance. And our program itself was all pre-recorded. That was a choice we made. We made in stages. We originally envisioned more of live pieces, and then just for simplicity's sake and peace of mind, going into something that was really unknown territory, we decided to pre-record everything. And we did it in 3 acts. We did our past as an organization, our present, kind of our current response to COVID, and then our future, sort of where our students are going, where our programming is going. And that worked out. That's a way that we shaped our show. And we had a couple of intros at the top from our ED and board members, like we would have in a real event. But we did not go with our paddle raise or live auction.
Super helpful. Excuse me, I have a dog that's like burying a hole in my rug. I don't know. Okay, Dana, tell us a little bit about your event, past and virtual. Give us an overview.
Yeah. So happy anniversary, by the way. There with Care celebrating their 15th anniversary as well. And we're looking forward to having this celebration of community. And shortly in March, we realized that we weren't going to be able to do that. We had 2 golf tournaments that were scheduled for May and June. And we knew that that probably wasn't going to happen. So in 6 weeks, we put together a virtual event on Facebook Live. 6 weeks. We exceeded what we would have made at both golf tournaments. I invite you all to watch it. It was, I think, an hour and 15 minutes, even though we were aiming for 60. It's on our Facebook page. The name of the organization is called There with Care. We help families and children facing critical illness. And I just went on to make sure it was still up there on Facebook, and it is. So if you have some time, I encourage you to watch it. It was nothing like our golf tournament, but we did have a few sponsors that were committed to golf that we asked if we could just pivot their donation towards our continuing the care is what we ended up calling our event. And really our big goal was to replace our golf income and to see how a virtual event works in case we needed to do it in September, which we do. So it was really kind of just a test to see, is this possible? What kind of programming, similar to what Shawn, you said, like that we can transfer over to make it feel normal and feel like it is a There with Care event. We usually had 250 golfers, and we had 4,000 eyeballs on our event on Facebook Live. So the reach was much greater using that. We did show, I encourage you to watch it, but our executive director was there. We did invite some special guests to come and join us, which really helped us get some new people involved. Tom Felton from Harry Potter and Jesse Martin are friends of the organization. So we made those calls. They joined us from LA and Vancouver. And it was very candid and very real and really entertaining. One thing Jesse said was, I'm so glad to be here. I didn't have to fly on a plane. You didn't have to put me up in a hotel. He's like, I'm not even wearing any shoes. So our next event is called Barefoot on the Red Carpet. This is our big signature gala that brings in 1/3 of the organization's income in Colorado. It's a significant fundraiser. So we decided to rally Jesse's fun experience with being at a gala with no shoes on to red carpet adventure, but now it's called Barefoot on the Red Carpet. And we're just now putting this live. It's been interesting, the timing. Usually we'd have all of our sponsors and invitations would be in the mail and all this stuff. And the timing has been interesting because you don't want to get it out too soon. And so our event is September 12th. So we're not even, we did a small save the date. And then we are actually going to be inviting people to come and be a part of our event on September 12th, which I also encourage you to do. Our Continuing the Care event was free. It was on Facebook Live. I did want to share, we had a few hiccups with Facebook Live. We did have some artists that donated their music for us that we played 30 minutes in advance of our hour show, showing slides of the sponsors, thanking some people that contributed to our match. And Facebook silenced us for 6 minutes because of the music that was playing. They realized that that was licensed music. So we are using a different platform for Barefoot on the Red Carpet because we are going to have some talent that will be there. So I just wanted to make sure to tell you that.
Really great. I don't know that people would have thought of that in advance, but yeah.
We were like, what are we going to do? And eventually 6 minutes later, they were able to help us, but we are going to be doing a different platform. So with Barefoot on the Red Carpet, we did realize that you've probably all been to a lot of virtual events. I've seen some that are really great. And I've seen some where I'm just like feeling so bad and like probably doubling my donation because I just feel so badly with the IT piece. But pre-recording.
Yeah, let's get into all the tech stuff because I know that's a big thing. But I know Shawn has a solution. I'm sure you have a solution, but I don't want to go there quite yet. But yeah, we will get to all the tech because I know that's scary.
It is, but I think it's important to have it be entertaining. So that's what we're going to be doing with Barefoot on the Red Carpet. We're celebrating our 15th anniversary. So we're getting some celebrities that have been a part of the organization to give us a 30-second happy 15th anniversary pre-recorded clips that we can clip in to make it really entertaining. It'll be a little bit longer, an hour and a half. We are a quarter of the way towards our huge fundraising goal with 5 weeks to go. And we'll do a silent auction. We will do a direct appeal. And we will have a matching gift as well, along with sponsorships. We're trying to pre-raise about 50 to 75% of our income before the day of the event.
For your second event, Dana, is it a ticketed event with a ticket price?
We did decide to do it as a ticketed event this time.
Okay.
It's only $25 per household.
Okay.
We are using a different IT platform, but we're also partnering with our food sponsor that we've had for years. Big Red F is having Jack's Restaurant. And so we're selling the tables for the same exact price. We're doing $2,500 and $5,000. You get dinner for 10, you get wine, you get a signature cocktail, you get special appetizers, and it's going to be curbside pickup, or we can deliver as well. So people can actually have a small intimate party at their home if they're comfortable. And if they're not, we can deliver 2 meals to your friend down the street, 4 meals to you, and 4 meals to a There With Care family. We're giving people the opportunity to donate a meal back to the organization for the families that we serve.
Wow.
And I encourage you to look at our website. We just perfected it in case anybody wanted to go on it today, therewithcare.org. We're giving people lots of ways to participate. Ticket only, dinner and show, auction only, sponsorships.
Cool. Super helpful. Okay, what do you got, Rhiannon? Let's hear it. I know it's so much stuff, right? It's so much.
I know, and that just made me think of so many other things. But so our original event is I'm very happy that we got our big fundraiser out of the way in the fall, and that was our 25th anniversary. And so we could still come together then. We did it. That was great. But then in the spring, we have these signature events in San Francisco and LA, and they're called Taste of Microfinance. So again, we serve small businesses, make loans to small businesses. And I work with a number of our client food vendors who provide all the small bites. And so it's just this really fun, vibrant, LA feeling tasting event and cocktail party, and is really just an introductory event. We call it our Fundraiser versus a big fundraiser. So we don't make a ton of money with it. We haven't historically. The future we will see, but and so it's just really fun, and the program's really brief. We figure out ways to sort of embed our clients' stories into the whole experience. So, you know, our guests are eating food from our clients. We tell the stories of those clients, you know, by having them there, but then also they have a kind of top chef menu that they carry around, and they get to vote for top chef. So it's just sort of a kind of fun way to get to know Opportunity Fund. And we have about 300 people at that one. And that was specifically our LA event. And then COVID happened and the pandemic hit, and we went into shelter in place. And it was just like, I mean, like many of you, I was like, what is my job all of a sudden? It just was such an interesting time to, you know, pump the brakes that quickly, not even pumping the brakes, hit the brakes. And so I think it was maybe a week or two where we were just sort of spinning and not really sure. And I personally was, and had 2 kids at home with me all of a sudden. And, you know, we were all going through that crazy time. And then our regional board in LA, we, you know, went to them to just kind of see where they were at. And they were like, we still need to do something, you know, like people need something right now. And it was really that nudge that encouraged and inspired us to just, you know, move forward. And so I think it was probably, you know, within that time frame, just shifted our brains into like, how do we carry this very food forward event to the internet? And we designed something that ended up, we called it Eat, Drink, Give, and secured Andy Cohen as our host. And we called it the internet's biggest dinner party. and partnered with a number of our food vendor clients who would provide curbside pickup or delivery food. Or we had one food vendor, because we're national now, which is a little newer for us, someone who could send these beautiful scone baskets. She makes the most delicious scones in LA, Jess, if you're interested. But she's
and Shawn, what's it called?
Sugarbird scones and teas.
I've had them.
Oh yeah, so amazing. I mean, scones you don't get that I don't get that excited about always, but hers are exceptional. So there was this food element where people could participate. So our ticket price, anyone could attend for free, but if you bought at certain levels, then you could get dinner for 2 or dinner for 4 or dinner for 1. And we worked with our clients to do that. So again, that's always sort of embedded in our events. So then Andy hosted, who obviously is, if you know him, a really well-versed host, which was just so helpful in this context to know that we could lean on his talent, even though we didn't really engage with him until, I mean, like there was very limited prep we were able to give, but just navigating sort of the technical difficulties and all of that, it was amazing to have a pro. But he hosted, you know, the program is really what it's all about when you're in this, on this virtual platform. And so I thought that was sort of the exciting new opportunity. And I got a lot of energy from sort of channeling so much energy into the program itself, because that's really what the event is, and incorporated a lot of our client voices. So Andy interviewed a number of our clients. But then we also had special guests. So we had Naisha, who's a former Top Chef contestant, do a little food demo. And then Tyson Bueller from Death & Co. did a cocktail demo. And they're both just so sweet and warm, and was wonderful to have them. But mostly, really, it was just these client interviews. And then I worked with a film producer to do film packages, which was like one of the best investments, I think, just because you can just pack such a punch with, if you work with a talented film producer to just get across your mission and connect people with the work that you do. So yeah, I think we were really working on hitting that vibe of like, we're sharing our stories and what our clients are going through, which is terrible, like, and devastating to them as individuals, but then the whole ecosystem they support, and they're going through a really hard time, but then we all need something sort of uplifting right now. So that to me was sort of stressful at times, where I was like, I don't know, we're doing a cocktail party, but talking about like these small businesses who are failing, and how do you hit that note? And so it definitely was a stress throughout the planning, but I think in the end we sort of were able to hit that right kind of balance. Cool. So ultimately a few hundred people tuned in live, and then now we've had over 2,500 people view. So I think that was this other thing of like being in this context where, like, even today or with this, like how many people can really, the benefit is what happens after as well, and that it lives on.
Yeah, has a longer shelf life.
Yeah,
for sure. Okay, let's talk. You guys, I think, all mentioned recruiting revenue via sponsorships. I know that sponsorships look differently for a virtual event. So I'm curious as to how you recruited sponsors, how you maybe curtailed the benefits, how you pitched it, like all things sponsorships. Who wants to go first? Shawn, you want to tell us what you did with your sponsors? And we'll go through the list.
Yeah, sure. So typically we start the sponsorship process sort of September, October of the previous year for a June event. Mm-hmm. So we already had our sponsorship deck. We had a pitch deck ready to go, which is just typically a PDF that we would share. And we had set up on Greater Giving an online way to purchase. So the PDF directs you there. You can purchase the various levels there. So we did sort of a typical levels that we do. We had 50,000, 25,000, 10,000, 5,000, and then down to 2,500. And the ticket prices were 500. And tables started at 10,000. That's how we do it. So, you know, the benefits originally, of course, were very table related, and dinner and cocktails and pre-VIP cocktail party and things like that were built into the actual event. So we did have to pivot. So when we put the whole event online, we kind of looked at our different levels and we came up with new ideas. I think we could have pushed the envelope even further, and I'll definitely be doing that in the future. But we really looked at what is it that would really benefit our students and that would have a real impact for the donor. So we have projects every year with our students, and we put out publications. So underwriting these publications was a way that we saw a real direct sort of impact and benefit. And that seemed to work out really well. We also had a 15th anniversary circle. So at 15,000 and above, you were part of this circle, and that goes up on the website and it goes up in our centers as sort of a plaque, and you get special recognition before the event, during the event. So that worked really well. That sort of 15K number became sort of an aspirational number, and we saw a lot of people move up to that level this year. So that worked out really well. And yeah, what else can I tell you about memberships?
No, I think that's good. I think that's
Okay.
helpful. Very helpful. How about you, Dana? I'm curious because I know that you said most of your sponsorships were recruited pre, and you really just kind of asked them to shift. So I'm curious, Dana, how you are pitching and presenting sponsorship opportunities for your future event in the next 6 weeks. What does that look like for people that haven't yet done their event and are like looking ahead?
Yeah, I think what we did with the Continuing the Care event is our sponsorship levels were lower, kind of like how Rhiannon was saying. It's a less of a fundraiser, so we did increase. I think our sponsorships were 250, 500. We made it very approachable because people were just, our sponsors were hurting. They were restaurants and car dealerships, and you know, we wanted to make sure that they had an opportunity to really participate. I have had some business owners since then say, you should have asked me for more money. I'm actually putting $5,000 away every month in my savings account because I'm not traveling. My wife's not shopping, and we're not going out to eat. You should ask me for more. So I do encourage those people that have been a part of the organization, that are real collaborators, to have those higher levels, like Shawn was saying. They want to help, and they want to have opportunities to step into bigger roles. So we did increase our sponsorship levels for the Barefoot on the Red Carpet event from the Continuing the Care, but they are in line with our regular sponsorship levels, and we decided to keep them at that. We're trying to make it feel as normal as possible. So our title sponsors for our event, we usually have 2 back-to-back events, one in the Boulder area, one in the Denver area. It's crazy. It's like having 2 weddings in a row with 300 guests each, and ballrooms and all of that. So we combined it into one. So our title sponsors for each one of those events are now presenting sponsors. They were both totally fine with that. They kept their same level of support, which was $15,000 each. And then we have our 5,000, 2,500. We have new levels of 1,000 and 500 just for people who would like to participate, who might not have as much to give. And then we're just, you know, I think we're up to 25 sponsors right now.
What are some of the benefits that people get digitally, like as a virtual sponsor, since there's not so much like the in-person stuff?
So we're doing like a pre-show, right, where there's slides that we would normally have at our gala. So like a platinum sponsorship has a full page ad slide during the event reception, we're calling it. And they also will get a shout out as well, like our regular event. I usually am up thanking everyone. Our auctioneer, Liam Mayclem from the Bay Area, is going to join us as well. And he's very familiar with these sponsors as well. So we're building into the script that he's going to be able to do shout outs to specific people at businesses because he knows them. And I think we're trying to keep our existing supporters, but then also looking at other businesses that may have given in different ways, either in kind or volunteer groups that come in. And now that they're not able to do those, we're trying to get them to get on board with a sponsorship for our event.
Got it. Cool. Super helpful. You're up next,
Yeah.
Rhiannon.
I think we were sort of emboldened by one of our, friendly organizations that we're friends with, who had just was in the process of also holding their annual gala where they raised a lot of money. And they said, we've been seeing this, we've been asking the same thing and getting the same or more that we have in the past. And so we sort of, just stuck with what we with the same levels we'd had in the past. So we have individual ticket levels, but then sponsors levels start at 2,500 and then go up to, we did add a 50 level this year. And really, like I said, has traditionally been a fundraising event, not a fundraising event. In the past, last year we raised something like $85,000. And then knew we wanted to grow this year anyway. So we were sort of aiming for that and upped our levels even from the past year, but kept them what we were sort of planning on. And we ended up raising $230,000 and saw that we got the same sponsors in. Many of our existing partners were the ones who still have this money to give and are looking to give it. And that was part of wanting to still hold the event was, we want to still engage our partners and people and don't want to leave, money on the table.
Right.
And so we found success with that. And the benefits were really, thinking a little bit differently about them, but it's always sort of centered on visibility. And in this context, you have a broader reach. Like normally we have a room full of 300 people, but this, now they walked away with 2,500 eyes on everything. And so we did that we offered naming segments. We didn't have anyone come in at that level, so we didn't end up naming any segments, but that was an opportunity for visibility. We did have a presenting sponsor. And then it was all about, like Dana said, we have slides that are rolling in the beginning and at the end. And there's a time when our CEO thanked our highest level sponsors verbally, and then through social and our marketing. But those were really the benefits. If anything, we took them, they weren't getting the dinners that we offered to our individual people. And normally they would be able to come and have a table or whatever it was. But we didn't offer those and it was fine.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted, the takeaway to be. Like, it doesn't have to be like the same exchange. I think you should just ask and see where the conversation goes.
And that's what we found.
Oh, good. Before we get into all the tech stuff, I just wanted to ask Dana specifically, because I know that you guys had a match donor, and I attended your guys' event and found that very motivating as a donor watching. Can you tell us a little bit how you recruited that match donor and then how you used that to motivate donations during your event?
Yeah, so we did use a local, a gentleman, Vic Lombardi. He's a sportscaster here in Denver who has won a bunch of Emmys. So he had a very big stage presence, which I think is also really important when you have that person asking for money to really, that's a really nice investment of getting someone, because that's really why everyone's there. So he was very charismatic and wonderful. And we had a few family foundations that usually would be supporting There With Care at some point throughout the year. So that was kind of our strategy, was to call up these foundations and say, we're having this event in 6 weeks or 5 weeks or 4 weeks. And if you're planning on supporting the organization, this would be a really wonderful way for you quickly to help support the organization, to motivate other people to come in and make large gifts. So it was actually just with some family foundations, and we combined a few family foundations for our match. We did use well, not to get too technical, but we did use a Google sheet, a Google spreadsheet, to be able to let Vic know the gifts that were coming in and at what levels. And so that was a live document that he was able to see, because we were getting gifts on Facebook, so we were getting pledges on Facebook, and then also through our website. And we're going to do it differently this time. But it was great to be able to have him say, hey, Marcia, thank you so much for your $10,000 gift. And keep him focused on being entertaining and engaging while just looking at one thing to see what was going on.
So you had like a staff person behind the scenes, like populating. Oh
yeah,
my gosh,
yeah,
because
I
you guys
know.
raised like over $100,000 of a lot of little gifts.
Yeah, yeah, it
Who
was
is that
crazy.
typewriter, and where can we find one?
I know. It was crazy. We're going to do it differently, but we were like, we thought we were like inventing something, like everyone's got something. Now everyone's doing it, but that was really helpful. And,
Yeah.
you know, I think too, it is just motivating. There was a little bit of a delay by the time it gets on here and you're able to get it on the dock. So if you look at our Continuing the Care event, and I'll put the bit.ly link up there, if you fast forward to that time, Vic would say, all right, so Dana, tell us what $5,000 does for your organization. And then it would go to me and I would be able to explain what that would do. In the meantime, he's looking at the spreadsheet to see what's coming in. So even if you're buying like 30 to 45 seconds, it really helps your auctioneer who's asking for the money to get caught up on what's happening and recognizing those people. So when we got our first big one and he called them out on that, people wanted to have them, and even Jesse Martin was like, thanks, Marcia. And because he knew her and, so that is important.
It was very engaging. It was
engaging. It was entertaining, right? It was fun. And it was like, it's like a regular event where someone raises a paddle and you're like, oh my gosh, thank you. Like, I didn't know you were going to do that. It keeps the spontaneity there, which I think is also really important. And we did exceed our goal of our match, which was really exciting.
Yeah. Okay. I want to get into the tech. I want to, because I know this is a big sticker. I want to start with Shawn, because I know specifically you invested in it. You made the call to just invest it versus do it all yourself in-house, which I want to say loudly for people on the call who might be trying to save a penny. I don't think this is where I would save my penny. I think I would find every coin in the cushion to be able to pay for this, for your sanity and for it to be well produced. Before I ask Shawn, I do want to give a little example. This is no shade. Okay. This is just we're being real here. And if anyone from this organization is on the call, I think you would agree. So I used to work for an organization called Chrysalis. Every year they host a huge event in LA called the Butterfly Ball. They raise over 1.2 or $3 million. It's A-list celebrity after A-list celebrity. They've been putting it on for 15 years. They're pros. They know how to do a really special event, right? They had to pivot their event in 2 weeks. So I will give them that. But the tech element of their virtual event was rough. It was, I'm going to use the word painful and cringeworthy. And for an organization of their size, which has so many moving pieces and so much happening, I don't know what was the sticker of them not just hiring a pro team to take care of it for them, but they didn't. And as the watcher, as the person experiencing the event, it was clunky. And so I'd love to hear what each of you all did on the tech side. And we can start with you, Shawn, about how that worked for you. Pre-recorded, not pre-recorded, live, not live, pro team, no pro team, all of it.
Yeah, we were learning on the fly. We really didn't know the best way to go about it. The board suggested right off the bat to do one of those sort of white label, I'm trying to think of the name of it and I'll come up with it in a minute. But there are plenty of organizations now out there, corporations, who will put together a website for you where you can kind of broadcast live. So the whole thing feels really branded. And then there's a lot of sort of interactive components to it throughout the evening. It's expensive. We looked at that as an option, and then it seemed kind of overwhelming. And at that point, we were still trying to think about a paywall, and we didn't know how to make that work. So we kind of moved on from there. Ultimately, it was thanks to you, Jess, and I came in on one of your seminars and saw Little Red Dog House. Mm-hmm. Is that, yeah. And anyway, they had used a company called Monty Videos, called them up, had a lovely chat, and realized that they could kind of, whatever we ultimately came up with, they could handle. So it was a question over the next couple of weeks of figuring out, what do we need? How are we going to do it? We ultimately decided to pre-record everything, which this production company helped us with. So we did a lot of Zoom recordings in advance, and then we ultimately aired it on Twitch. So we had a classy campaign where we ran our peer-to-peer, and then ultimately we put up the link and directed everybody to Twitch. And then we did Twitch because it could interact with Classy, but ultimately we decided just to go to link and go over to Twitch. It was just cleaner. And we had the live chat, which was really important to us at the time, just to have that interaction. Yeah. To do it again, I would have even more interaction. I would like to do live polling. I would like to have more information running across the bottom of the screen. I would like to have more live elements. So hiring a producer going forward would be even more critical, I think, to the work that we'd want to do.
Because people, can you give us a range about what it costs to hire that company?
This was incredibly affordable. I think it was a bit of a learning curve for the production company as well as us. So we were well under 5,000 for the whole shebang.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I say that because it's all relative. Like some people on the call are going to be like $5,000, and then other people are going to be like $5,000. Yeah, let me put my credit card down yesterday. You know what I mean? So I just want to give a range for people. And if you guys didn't attend yesterday's session with Julie Migliacci of Revent Consulting, she also does this for a lot of nonprofit clients, and she is a great person to get in touch with, or watch her video or watch her live. But Monty is also, now they're pros because they've done tons, but there's a lot of resources out there. Dana, tell us about you. What tech did you use?
So we use Zoom.
Yeah.
And we put Zoom on our Facebook Live.
I know. I love how simple. I don't know if that's the right word, but like it was nothing fancy.
It was nothing fancy, and we did it on a shoestring, budget. We did hire an auctioneer to help us because we knew that we needed that professionalism when we're trying to string some things together. But luckily, we were already contracted with him, so it was in our budget. So Zoom was free. Facebook Live was free. We did have Greater Giving, which was our platform that we used for our silent auction. And also direct donations. And another thing that we added to our silent auction, because we usually would have a live auction as well, as some super silent auction items, including some meet and greets, Zoom calls, if you will, with some celebrities, which went really, really well. So Tom Felton, I think he donated 4 15-minute Zoom calls, and we had everyone from LA to Texas, and those went really, really well. And I know that Rhiannon, you guys did that. I think you had some celebrity opportunities at your event, which I looked at. I think those are really popular. We did it on Facebook Live, which I mentioned that IT piece was a little bit nerve-wracking, but we did get a lot of eyeballs from celebrities who were sending their fans to come and see them because they were really hosts of the event. But there's a lot of Instagram people too. So we did miss out on those Instagram followers who didn't have Facebook. So that was a lesson learned for us. But it was very inexpensively done. And we were kind of we did have 2 dry runs, which I think was really important. When I've seen some events happen where there has been IT issues, I don't know if they've practiced enough. Just like you would have a regular dress rehearsal for a big gala event, you really want to make sure people know that they're not on mute. And you want to make sure that they know that their video's off, and just regular etiquette of how it works. I see everybody is on mute here. We've gotten used to how this works now, but back then, you have to go. I just put the bit.ly link. You guys have to go watch it. In the very beginning, Jesse and Tom are talking kind of candidly. I don't know, knowing if a bunch of people were watching. And luckily they were talking about Haagen-Dazs ice cream and other things besides like, who are you dating now? Or, whatever. So another little lesson learned IT thing is just to have some dress rehearsals.
What are you doing for your event in the fall?
Yeah, we're doing 2 dress rehearsals for that. It's actually interesting. Our event is sponsored by Quincy Jones Productions. Our executive director and founder is a movie producer. She did Harry Potter and Mrs. Doubtfire and Home Alone and some movies. So she has some wonderful connections. I feel very fortunate. So Quincy Jones Production is helping us with some talent. And we're actually going through There's 2 platforms that we're looking at right now. We don't even have it yet, but that's kind of the good thing about virtual events, is that we can just get closer and then make the decision of what's going to work best.
Yeah.
But we're looking at one called Moment House, which I think is a Dr. Dre kind of company that we're looking at. And there's another one that we're looking at as well. But it's a ticketed event. So we're charging $25 for people to come to our event. And I invite all of you to come and pay $25 and help support our cause and check it out. But we're going to have some pre-recorded stuff from some artists, which I think is really important. Paula has said, you know, artists are a little reluctant to come to a live event in case the lighting isn't right, in case the mic's not working. I watched a Michael Franti concert and he was on mute for the first little while. So pre-recording talent, I think, is a plus for getting people to say yes. But we also are going to have a live element. Our Continuing the Care event was pretty much 100% live, except for our video, where we showed There With Care's response to COVID and really saw what families are going through in terms of having a critically ill child in isolation and financial distress. But everything else was pretty much live.
Okay. Very helpful.
Oh, and Moment House charges like $2 per ticket. So they take care of everything.
Oh.
So you can charge $50, you can charge $100. It's pretty neat. And if you go to momenthouse.com/demo, you'll see an artist on there. They did kind of also a dry run of a concert. And this woman's concert sold 1,600 tickets in like an hour. And this artist, who obviously hasn't been able to perform, put some decent money in her pocket for a 45-minute pre-recorded show. So
wow. Oh, that's a great resource. I haven't heard of that one yet. Cool.
You'll see on our event who we end up going with. Always exciting, you know, you never know.
Rhiannon, what about you? What tech did you guys use?
Tech was one of those things where I knew that was the blind spot for me very early on, and gave me sort of hives, because I was like, we knew we wanted to do something that was basically like our TV show for an hour. And I know how to pull a lot of those elements together, but like the technical aspects, not something I've ever done. And so felt really strongly that we would put a chunk of our budget towards that. And I think in these early days, you know, we had between 5 and 6 weeks to plan the whole thing. And we didn't even have our tech secured for that whole time. And this was the early days when everyone, including these vendors, were sort of figuring out the lay of the land also. So I felt very challenged by the fact that there was no one, I couldn't find anyone who had ever produced a 60-minute fundraising event like we were trying to do. Like, people have different pieces of the, you know, talent that you need to put it together, which is what I had to suss out, was like, you know, who can we piece together to kind of help us bring this together? Now it's already such a different landscape. Like, there are a lot of people who have done this over and over again. So I think that's the benefit of planning something now. But we ended up finding, so we had Jennifer Aniston did a shout out to us on Jimmy Kimmel. So somehow we got connected with, that's how we got connected with the Jimmy Kimmel team. And we ended up going back to them and going like, do you know anyone who can do this? And they put us on to Stage 10, which is a YouTube product. And they have all these different levels. So you can do it super DIY, like just get something that's a few $100s and you're producing and doing all the technical aspects, but it's like a platform for you to work with. Or you can get these, you know, sort of white glove service, which is what I went with. So, and then I also partnered with this other production company that I had been sort of talking to, and they had been, you know, sort of tutoring me through the whole, like, how do you broadcast live thing, just as a partner. And I think the equivalent role they ended up playing in this virtual land to a live event would be like the stage manager sort of role. So with that partnership with both of them, I felt like we were just in really good hands the whole way through. Highly recommend stage 10. We also, they offer graphics, so you can do, you know, they have templates that you can sort of choose from, but we worked with a graphic designer. If you do take a look at our event, the graphics I thought turned out really well and just sort of did a lot for us in terms of branding. But you don't have to do that. You can just use, you know, the template, lower thirds and everything. So that's what we ended up going with. I'd say the other tech piece was we had been using Givergy as our donor giving platform, and they are not set up, and they probably are now, but they were not at the time for virtual events. And so we were really hacking our way through. They were super helpful and awesome, and the customer service was amazing, but they really didn't have the features to integrate with stage 10. So for example, I went in and was like, you know, you can't do a paddle raise or a fund a need, but like, I feel like the way you do that, or you've seen it, is like a ticker message at the bottom of like I thought it sounded super simple of like, yeah, let's just have like a ticker at the bottom that's thanking our donors as they're making gifts. It's not easy. It's a very difficult thing. If you have the right donor platform, we could have fed that in really easily with stage 10, but it just wasn't the right match. So I'd say if you're fundraising, you want to make sure you're choosing a platform that integrates well with your donor platform, just because that was just one of the harder things to navigate. And at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do, is fundraise. So if we had two that spoke to each other better, that would have served us well.
Thank you. That was all very helpful. So we've got about 10 minutes left, and I want to be mindful of everyone's time. We've got a few questions here in the chat that I want to get to, but before we do, can you guys just quickly tell me how long each of your events were?
1 hour.
Yeah, an hour.
Ours was 1 hour and 15 minutes.
Okay, y'all hear that? 1 hour. One. It is not the same as an in-person gala that's 4 hours long. People do not want to sit on their computer, just like even the Zoom call where you're getting all the good information. We're about to be done. And I just really want to like underscore, because I think anything over an hour is really pushing it. Like 2 hours is a hard limit for me. Like, do not cross that threshold. So I did want to say that. Okay, so some questions here.
Can I just add something really quick?
Yes.
For our gala, we're actually doing 45 minutes of program, and then we're doing an after party of 45 minutes of total entertainment.
Okay, there you go.
So we're going to push the limit of 1.5 hours. But we want people to get up and dance and have fun, and we'll see what happens with that. But I agree with you. 1 hour is pretty good.
Yes. Okay,
But
great.
can I just add one thing, Jess, to that too? Is I think someone else gave this advice to us, which is, you know, you have to think of the attention spans, especially if people are viewing this after the fact. Like, if any of you go to look at our event, you're not going to watch the full hour, but we want to make sure if you're tuning in at any point that you get where to go to give, or our website. Like, that information just needs to be repeated constantly, knowing that people aren't tuning in for that full hour.
Mm-hmm.
We're also going to use text to give as well this time for the first time.
Oh, good.
We're going to invest in a text to give to just be able to throw that out in the middle of things if people end up joining us later.
I'll just say from experience too, one thing that I thought Dana and the crew at There With Care did really, really well that I think everyone should do is they were asking for money at moments throughout the event. Like, they did not rely on like a live ask moment so much as they talked about it several times. And I think the thing to remember is this is a virtual event where people have kids in the background, they're cooking. I mean, I literally was cooking dinner while I watched the live event. And so it's easy to miss things. And so to have your host or Dana or whoever is kind of come back to the donation moment several times within an hour is really important. Okay, I want to ask some of these questions. So you guys all kind of have some celebrity elements to your events. And I know that there is some nonprofit on here that maybe lives not close to anywhere where like movie land is made, and don't have connections to celebrities. So I'm curious if you can give any advice to pool, maybe whether it's like an A-list celebrity or a local celebrity. How do you approach people to be involved? I know, Dana, you specifically said making the ask to pre-recorded material is a lot easier. I will also post in here a link to an interview I did with the Little Red Dog, who recruited a whole bunch of talent, all pre-recorded. She got like 24 yeses. So any advice you guys have on that, like, talent front?
You know, for our 15th anniversary, we're going back and asking people that have been a part of the organization since day one. So that's also a really great place to start. Like, artists are sitting at home right now, and they would love nothing more than to get in front of an audience, to perform, and to help make the world a better place. So we started with just looking back at different celebrities that have helped us throughout the year, whether they were paid or they volunteered. Anna Sophia Robb from Soul Surfer had lived in Denver, and she did some grocery deliveries for us when she was back here. And so we called her to see if she would be interested in doing a happy anniversary pre-recording. And she was like, I'm in, I'm all in. Our musical artists that have come out to perform at our events, we've asked, we're doing this 15th anniversary, would you be interested in performing, or just doing a short happy anniversary? And then also asking them to put it out on their social handles as well. And those guys will be using the text to give, to say, here's a charity that I'm involved with. So if someone doesn't want to buy a $25 ticket, they can say, hey, that's my favorite celebrity, I'm going to donate $5 for text to give. So they can help you put the event on and have some entertainment. And you can put some headshots on your website, which also helps with ticket sales, but they can also reach out to their fans as well and help spread the word of your mission.
Shawn, do you have any advice? I don't know if Rhiannon had to duck out or just press the wrong button or something.
Yeah, we usually do make a lot of asks every year for celebrities. We're in LA. We have a lot of contacts here. Obviously, it goes back. We've been around for 15 years. Judd Apatow was a big part of our start. So we do have some nice contacts that are already embedded. But I do think that I would absolutely agree that in this new virtual world, the asks are a lot easier. We had just a great lineup this year because we were able to send very simple instructions. We gave them a student story. We said, please read this story. Just say your name at the top. And we got, Tom Hanks and Keegan-Michael Key and Constance Wu and Kumail Nanjiani. Like, it was an amazing lineup because it was a low lift for them, a light lift. So I would, and then there's, IMDb Pro and whorepresents.com. These are places where you can go and find representation. And I would, if you don't have a personal ask, which is always the best way, ask your board, ask your trustees, ask your volunteers, who do you know? And after you go through that, then I would say, go to the representation and, state your case and make your plea, and you'd be surprised the kind of response that you'll get these days.
Perfect. Can you guys really quickly recap for us what your ticket prices were?
I could jump in. Initially, for the in-person event, it was $500 for a ticket. We kept it that way just at the very top for the virtual event, and then really didn't want to have that big of a barrier. So we ended up dropping the price altogether. Great.
Our ticket price for the Continuing the Care event that was broadcast on Facebook Live was free.
Yeah.
And for our gala, usually our per person ticket price for a seat is anywhere from $175 for an individual ticket, up to $500 a seat if someone buys a $5,000 table. So for our event coming up in September, it's going to be $25. But I did put on the chat here our link to our website that has the event, and you'll see that there's options. And I think that that's really great too, trying to be really sensitive to our community. I think one of the biggest things I'm excited about our event is we're going to gather community, and we're usually all together. And so we want to make it really approachable for everybody to participate. So you can just get a ticket, you can do dinner and a show, and you can do sponsorship. But I think our dinner and a show is $175 per couple, instead of $175 per person, because $175 rings for people, but it's you know, there'll be two people eating two meals, watching it from their house. And that's what we're doing for Barefoot.
Okay, lastly, and if anyone has to jump off, and I hope Zoom doesn't like kick me off right now. So actually maybe Dana and Shawn, tell people how they can find you. And then maybe if you have just a couple more minutes, I'll ask this very last question from Lori, but in case like Zoom gets weird on me, you have all put your links in the chat, but tell us a little bit how people can either follow up with you or get in touch with you or find you on LinkedIn. What's the best way?
Yeah, would love it. Feel free to reach out. I'll just put my email here in the chat.
Okay, perfect.
Reach out that way. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
me too. Dana at therewithcare.org. And I'm on LinkedIn as well.
Awesome.
I'll put it in here as well, but please feel free to reach out. Happy to help.
Awesome. Okay, so this is for, let's see, maybe Dana, you can speak to this. Well, Shawn too, because you had a host. How did the host situation play out? Like, how did you prep them? How did you have a pre-meet with the talent? I know most of your stuff is pre-recorded, Shawn, but can you talk a little bit about that process? And I actually think that having a host to time the event and move it along is very, very important. So anything you can give in terms of advice of that role. Go ahead, Dana.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, we had just like our regular events, we had a time down to the minute. So, you know, it's like 4:37 and this happens, and then 4:39, they're done and you roll into this video. So it was very, the script was there. We were all following our script. I actually had 3 screens because I was looking at the donations, I was looking at the event, and then I was looking over here at the script. So we did just like a regular gala. We had a pretty strict script. Granted, things went off a little bit, but we knew we had to make time up later, which is why our event was a little bit longer than expected. But we did give Vic the whole script. And if you go to that Continuing the Care event, you'll see him looking down and reading from that script. And then I also had some talking points in terms of what does this dollar amount do for a There With Care family. So there's a little bit of loosey-goosey in there, but I think it is important to be able to stay on time to have a script that everybody is a part of. That I think we had 12 people on the Zoom call, but not everybody was on it. I did want to mention the gala team was how we got our auctioneer. And they're excellent. They're out of Denver. And I'll write that in the notes here as well. They were wonderful in the production piece, in the backside of moving people's stuff in and out.
Interesting. How about you, Shawn? And I think Rhiannon, you're back. Yay. How about you with the host?
Yeah, we asked a long-term supporter of ours, Al Madrigal, to join us. He's a comedian, an actor, writer, producer, multi-talented, and he used to be a correspondent on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart, for any of you who are fans back then. But anyway, he was more than happy to come on. We wrote his script out for him. We had him introduce each act. We had him do a little bit of the transitions that we needed, and we planned all that in advance. We sent him the script. We had him pre-record it, and then send it in. So that worked out really, really well for us.
Okay, cool. And Rhiannon, are you able to join us? Let's see. You're just maybe.
Yeah,
oh.
I'm here. Sorry,
That's
my
okay.
internet feels unstable these days. But so our host was Andy Cohen, and he didn't, he was very generous in being willing to do the event. Yeah, but he did not give us a lot of time in advance. We have done a lot of, we have a marketing team who highly scripts any of our programs. And so we had a great script that we had worked on internally and handed it over to him and tried to do whatever kind of prep we could do, but it was very minimal. But typically we'd have, some more run throughs and kind of workshopping it with whoever our host is, but he did it well anyways.
Someone else in the chat asked, what is the team size that you are working with? I know in the group, we've got a lot of one-person shows, and some of you have more support than that and others less. Can you tell us what your team to pull these things off looks like? Shawn, why don't you go first?
Yeah.
Am I jumping in? No.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. I didn't want to cut you off, Rhiannon. We have a small team. It's myself, and we've got a designer and a communications manager, and we had someone who handled our social media, and that is the extent. So it was 4 of us who pulled it off.
Okay. How about you, Rhiannon?
I think it's so important, you know, when you're looking at other organizations' events to really understand who it is. And you know, our CEO will like come back from an event and be like, they put on this massive thing and blah. And you're like, they have like a 10-person event team. But I'm a 1-person event team. That said, there's a lot of people, like I have a marketing team. Not everyone has a robust marketing team. Ours isn't super robust, but they do all the emails, the content, work on, like I said, the script, you know? So, and then I partner with our frontline fundraiser, who is actually the one who's securing the sponsorships and securing hosts if we have event leadership, that sort of thing. So while I produce the event, I'm working with different people who own chunks of it.
Okay,
and it doesn't look like that everywhere. Yeah.
How about you, Dana?
Yeah, mine's kind of the same way. We had, I don't know, the gala team was probably a team of 3 or 4 people on the back end. But our executive director was involved. I was involved. Our development directors were involved. We have some community development associates that were doing the chat room because our communications person was doing something else. We had a volunteer that was doing the Google Doc. So we piece parted everything in case something went crazy, you know, like all of a sudden the chat starts going, and it's like, you have to just have one person that's doing it. And it could be a volunteer that knows how to do that, that you can train. But we did piece part things so that if something did happen, someone wasn't moving off the actual live show.
Yep.
So yeah, I think we probably had 10 people total.
And staff or volunteer roles.
Yeah, staff / volunteers.
So helpful. We have gone over on time. I think that you just probably blew everyone's minds. I from the bottom of my core suggest you go look at these events. There is no need to reinvent the wheel. Even though like all of this is kind of very fresh and new, go check them out. On my own business YouTube page, I've interviewed a ton of people that have done virtual events to give you different ideas. I would say less is more, less is more, less is more, as with everything fundraising, and keep it short and sweet, right? I think that was a big takeaway too. And maybe hire out for the things that are not your in your sweet spot. So if that's the tech, if that's the talent, if that's the script writing, like try and do what you're good at. And if you can afford to not do those other things, don't give yourself the extra gray hairs, so to speak. Dana, Shawn, Rhiannon, we can't thank you enough for sharing your experiences with us. Everyone has your contact information. Thank you for being so generous with your time and your wisdom. And yeah, I will see everyone. Hopefully we're doing a networking session later today. Love to see you there. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of day 2 at the summit. And thank you again.
Thanks, Jess.
Thanks, Jess. Bye,
All right,
everybody.
good one.
Thanks so much, everyone.